Nisa Bulavinaka, and welcome again to another episode of Becoming a Man ministry, a ministry birthed out of necessity, whereby we have seen a lot of challenges with young couples, especially with young men who seems to have challenges in in society. Some have ended up in prison, some have ended up suicidal, but we do believe there is a solution. And the solution is to know our roles, our responsibility of becoming a man. In the last few episodes, we've been defining what a man is and the roles and responsibility to be in the image and in the likeness of God. With us in the last episode and continuing today is Mr. Jo Nata, where he had expressed in the last episode the project called Yanra. And we'll revisit it in this episode and move to another project that they have been doing, and that is the reconciliation for Fiji or Forward Fiji. Mr. Nata, welcome again into this episode. And would you like to just summarize again Yanra for our viewers or viewers that have joined us for the first time?
Vinaka. Yanra, as I mentioned before, stands for Young Adult Development and Reform Alliance. It is basically working with street kids, both boys and girls. We've started here in Nandi and in Lautoka, and when we are set up properly here in the West, then we will be moving back to Suva, because I think there is greater challenge in Suva than in both Nandi and Lautoka. We are also working with ex-prisoners, and we have a rehabilitation farm in Naita Siri. The idea is that we will take in ex-prisoners who do not have any place to go. Those who can go home, they can go home, but those who do not have a place to go, or if they will end up in the street, we will take them in. So that's basically what Yanra is all about, and that we have pushed ahead with the street kids here in Nandi, as I mentioned, and now we've put them to in a farm. We have found employment for a number of girls and boys, about 25, and we have a shelter in Mulu Mulu. We are calling it the Yanra shelter, and we are doing all this without any assistance from outside, and we're doing it in our own resources that we could scrape around from the things that are around us, but it's going. I think the most important thing that we are getting assistance from above. Although we do not have any resources, we do not have any assistance at the moment. But things are moving, things are going, and obviously somebody has been generous with us. Somebody has been helping us, and I believe in the heart of my heart that it is my friend, this Jewish boy I met in prison. You may know him as Jesus. I know him as a friend, and I think, as I found out in prison, he is very faithful, and whatever the Bible says about him is true. He will provide. He'll make a way. He'll put people, like-minded people, put them across your path. He'll find the resources. And this is a classic example. We're doing it without any help, and everybody knows that I'm penniless and poor. I do not have any thing, but work is going on. That is what one of the things that I've been doing since I came out of prison.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Nata, for that discussion about Yanra. And we do hope that as we have finished in our last episode, if you do feel urged, inclined to help out, do reach out. And Mr. Nata's mobile is down below, and it will also come through with his email at the end of this segment. So feel free to reach out, and our administrator of the channel and this podcast will always refer you, because we need to help. And something that is dear to this is majority of the street kids, Mr. Nata, is actually from very good families. There is something that I'm not seeing in there that is not making sense. So what have your findings and in your deliberations and talking with them?
Yes, Vinaka. In the process of children that we put in the farm in Tau, that didn't work out very well. I think there were some differences in the approach, and but one good thing that came out of there, 18 of these kids were put back in their home. We found out we were working with the Ministry of Youth. I think the Ministry of Youth should be given some credit. They've been very helpful. In the process of trying to get our database, then we found out that a lot of these kids, they come from good homes. And we also found out, there are two reasons why kids are on the street or they go to prison. One of them is the resistance to authority. And in the home, the resistance to parental authority. That's why they end up the street. Now, we will live. And secondly is budasa, laziness. People tend to, sociologists and people, the enlightened, the educated, they want to put reasons like lack of education, broken families. Okay, that's all very well. They probably contribute. But you think, how many people who come from broken homes, they become millionaires and they've done well. There are millions and millions, many more than those who have failed. And then how many people with little education who are millionaires, who are entrepreneurs, who are inventors, they didn't have any little education. So that cannot be the reason why kids are in the street and in the streets. But the two real reasons, the other good reason is that they wanted all the benefits of life, but they want to run their own life. Two, they're very clever in giving excuses and trying to explain things away. But they always have answers. So having that in mind, we realize, and these kids who come from good home, simply because their parents can't handle them. And then I think the ministry went to talk to them and approach them, and they tried to reconcile, so they have gone back home. So there is a misnomer that people in the they don't have any homes. No, a lot of them they come from good homes. It's just because they resisted, they did not like parental authority. That's why they ended up in the street.
I think, thank you very much, Mr. Nata, on that. One huge thing that we can learn from this is you might want to help, but you might not have the expertise out there. But Mr. Nata and his group do have that expertise, and we do like you to help out. And if you want to help out, please reach out to Mr. Nata on the phone that is there. With those, Mr. Nata, something else that you are now putting as a project is Forward Fiji. The need for reconciliation, the need to move Fiji forward, the need to understand, to live with each other and move our country to the best there is. You have also started that movement, I may say project, it could be, but it's best for you to explain that one on Forward Fiji.
Yes, while I was still in prison in 1923, after the first year of the People's Alliance government under Prime Minister Rambuka, they introduced a Girmit Day. It's the first time that the Girmit Day has been remembered and now been commemorated. And it was 1 week before the Ratuskuna Day. At the end of those two commemorations, they signed a document called Forward Fiji, the Forward Fiji Declaration. And I was in prison, I was listening. The thing that struck me at that time was that it was signed by the Great Council of Chiefs and the leadership of all the Indian institutions. With the Hindu, it's a bit difficult to separate the cultural and the religious. They're almost one and the same. I may be wrong, but it was the only document signed by the Great Council of Chiefs and the leaders of the Indian community, 8 groupings altogether, and the churches. So I call it probably Fiji's most sacred document, existing document, because In it, they've agreed and they've made commitment to help each other, to work together, to bring about a new Fiji. But when I came out of prison, I went to see the minister responsible for reconciliation, and I was suggesting to them, look, this is the best platform that we can have the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to ride on, a canoe, if you like, to take Fiji forward towards Fiji, and the National Reconciliation to ride on it. But I suppose, being an ex-prisoner, or maybe my people that matters, they probably thought, it's a wishful thinking. But when the bill came out, I was not very happy, and I rang up the minister concerned and I said I was not very happy. Although I will still support the national reconciliation, the truth telling and all of that, but I think we need to go a little bit further. As it turns out, this Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it tends to portray a particular group as aggressors and a particular group as victims. And my position has always been that we have been all aggressors, we have been all victims, and I think if we look at the history of our coexistence as Indians and Fijians, and I've always maintained that although we've lived together for over 100 years, we still, in the main, living parallel lives. Indian, Fijians. There is a little bit of some kind of cohesion in some places. Levuka, Sabu, they're good examples of when they start to know each other's language, they come together. And in the West, there's quite a bit of, but in the main, when I ask you, Tobata, how many Indian families, how many Indian homes have you been entered and invited as a friend, as a guest? And how many Indian families have Fijian friends who can be invited, who can walk in and as a part of the family friends?
Very less.
Okay, if we are honest with ourselves,
yes, almost.
I think we are still. You look at when in a function, Indians will flock together. Indians will flock together. Fijians and Indians, they will flock with that. Same thing happening in prison. And then it's natural, just simply because we haven't broken that barrier, and we still, unless we break this barrier. Many years ago, I spoke to the late leader of the opposition, Mr. Jairam Reddy, and the former Prime Minister and President Ratu Sakamise-Samara. Apart from other things that we discussed, there was one question that I asked them: why haven't we spoken, apart from the lingua franca, which is English, why haven't we spoken a second language? And at that time I was suggesting Hindi, because the marketability of the Hindi language, when you go out of Fiji, you speak another language, and Hindi is becoming an international language because of the Indian diaspora all over the world. So I was inclined towards Hindi. And then the answer they gave was, I was not satisfied, and then I told them what I feel. You know what? I think, you were happy with Fijians not speaking Hindi and Indians not speaking Fijian, because you politician, it's for the benefit of you politicians. Right. You tell them something privately when you're talking to them, but publicly you say something else. Same thing with the Indian community. You tell something, you're probably bad-mouthing it's okay, but in public you say something else, and it's convenient for you.
Right.
And if I told them, if we had spoken a second language, imagine how much the Indian family then start to how much we would come together if we break that barrier. But anyway, in prison I saw this thing, and I came out and I spoke to the minister concerned, and I said, why haven't you used the Forward Fiji Declaration? And it's there, and unfortunately, as it turned out, it was bad. I think, I do not take anything away from the effort of the government to have this thing, but I think it was merely a publicity stunt, and nobody knows where the Fiji Forward Declaration is. Now, just recently, after I've been investigation, I have an unsigned copy. And the signed copy, as it turned out, it's hanging in a wall of the president of the former president of the Methodist Church. But I've since spoken to him. I've since spoken to another two to president. So I explained what I'm trying to do, and they were very happy. So we will meet, and then we'll start to work out how we can resurrect and make this document alive. So in the meantime, I've set up this. I hope it's going to be a movement. It's going to be a movement that like-minded people who wants a Fiji that we can live together in harmony, in unity, togetherness, and we can all, with all honesty, looking at each other in the eye, that we are Fijian. I came to this realization when I was in prison. I was involved with this the dark events of Fiji in 2000, which I maintain. I continue to say that you cannot justify. You cannot justify a coup, whether it's Rambuka's coup, Bainimarama's coup. There is no justification. It was made under some false notion, that, but it's not true, because we are always, given this thing about the devil, out there trying to get our land, but it's not true. Because I was involved in those sad part of our history. And I started to read the Bible, and I think it helped in the process and my thinking, my thought process. And I was asking myself what I would like to do in the future. So first thing is that how can I pay back to Fiji for these terrible things that I was involved with. So I've set up this movement, and we have a chat group. It's public now, and people who want to come in. And basically the idea is that we can contribute and talk and see how we can, practically, in practical ways, to forge a way together to build a new Fiji. A Fiji where we will try and cut down suspicion, distrust. We talk, that's why I wanted this through the national reconciliation to go a little bit back, talk about our story, talk about our fears, talk about our aspiration and our hopes, and then we talk about honestly, truthfully, what were our fears, what were the kind of things that concerns us. Of course, the Indians will say land, and we will say this and that. Education. But as long as we exchange each other's stories, get this thing, get it collected, get it recorded, and be part of our new movement towards a new Fiji. That is why I thought I've set up this thing to create a forum, a platform that we can talk without, we may differ, but without being disagreeable, without rancor. We can talk with an openness, with the idea, the thinking that we want to move Fiji forward. We want, hopefully there will be no finger pointing, using of bad language, as administrator when it goes down that track, we will have to. But we will try to keep it as open and as truthful. There will be a lot of differences. There will be a lot of hard words, but we will try and keep it, unless it goes under the belt, then we may have to. So that is what I'm doing. Like I said, I've spoken to 2 ex-presidents of the Methodist Church, and they are very happy. They were willing to come in. I think the Archbishop of the Catholic Church, I think he's a man that we could work with, and he's a very progressive man. And then we will also talk to the signatories, those who signed the Forward Fiji Declaration. And because I think these people also want a Fiji that we can live together, and we can, proudly and truthfully call each other Fijian.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Nata, on that. I believe that part of the becoming a man means is to be responsible, not only in your small area as a nuclear in Jerusalem, but move out to Judea, Samaria, and the end of the world. And such ministries and projects as you are mentioning need to be as part of our civil duty for the nation. And I personally believe what you are doing should be encouraged, because not only is this going to help, but it's coming from a non-political side. It's coming from the citizens of Fiji, rather than always coming from the government as a top-down motion. So good luck with that, and we do hope that all your listeners out there, viewers out there, please do reach out to Mr. Nata, to reach out to the ministry, the Kingdom Midnight Ministry, and the Becoming a Man Ministry, because we do hope that we one day can help our nation reconcile, heal, and move on into a better Fiji. We are already there, more so, but we would like to be much better so any final words, Mr. Nat, before we wrap this session?
Yes, I just want to touch on the topic that is probably sensitive in this process of trying to bring Fiji together under the banner of Forward Fiji. There's one particular issue that we may have to talk about, and there are a lot of differing views on this, and of being called a Fijian. I got probably personally, I have no great problem with that. In fact, while we were in Nuku'alofa, we discussed this very issue, and I expressed at that time, and I got no problem with being called a Fijian. But it would have been nice if we were asked, and I'm sure we will not withhold it, but it would have been nice that we were asked instead of being forced on us. I don't think we will unnecessarily withhold. But on the other hand, there is more to being a Fijian than just by name, just name. We are all Fijians. But I believe if I'm okay with being Fijian, but there is more. I think everybody now being called a Fijian, we have to learn and to know the Fijian culture, the Fijian way of life, the Fijian thinking. They have to learn to eat Fijian food. When I was in prison, there's this friend of mine. He's now a Christian from Rogaraki. He's never been to a Fijian home, and the cassava they fried. He said he's never eaten cassava boiled, and then only in prison then he started to eat boiled cassava. They boil it and they fry it. Those little things. So when I told him, if I invite you to my home, would you come? Yeah, I will come. So that's my point is that being a Fijian is not only a name. There is a lot of things, baggage that comes with it, and we have to learn to be a Fijian. And I think our Indian brothers, they would love that. The opportunity, and I did a lot of thinking and a lot of reflection, stock taking in prison. There are certain institutions that were created by the colonial government, and one of them is his provincial council and the rural local authority, or local rural authority. I think we should do away with that. If you are living in Ba, you go to the Ba Provincial Council, Indian and Fijian. If you're living in Laos, you go to Laos Provincial Council. So we have to take away some of these structures and instrumentalities that are separating us. There are institutions that are separating us deliberately. It was meant for the colonial administration to make things easier for them. But now it's our time that we should dismantle those things that are keeping us apart. If you're from Ba, your chief is in Ba, or your chief is in Nandi, your chief is, and if you are near the nearest village to you, should be your village. You should learn to know what is and the village. Then the village know. And normally in the Fijian culture, like when the Gasnivuli and the Talatala, they come, they actually are counted or are member of the chiefly Matangari. Right. And that should, we can have something similar to that. But we have to develop this Fijianness. Now we are all called Fijian. We have to develop this Fijianness. So this is why I thought Forward Fiji could be useful in getting this thing, to push this thing along the way.
I fully agree in that. It should just not be a name that we are taking along in Parliament, and then if somebody starts to misuse it, we are now called, you're not inclusive, you are segregating. But as you mentioned, there's more to it. I was raised up near, and my neighbors are all Indians. I attended Lambas College, which is like 3/4 Indian student. So I feel like I understand that my neighbors, and my primary school was all Indian. But I also can vouch that being a Fijian is more than that. We had Indians beside our village. They became part of our village. I still remember calling them grandfather, and then my brother, the sons. Now we are brothers. We still to this day.
Yeah, the Indians, they have a, I admire, they call us uncle, when they talk to elders, I think there's beauty in how we deal with each other. When we're strangers, if you're elder, they call you uncle. But I think we should nurture that, develop that, and make it a way of life, and we have to go back to the old-fashioned, respect for elders. I remember when I started working the Fiji time, transport manager Ram Chandra, he's an old man. And then we realized, and then there was another driver, Jack. He lives in I can't remember. I went to his house. Jack is the driver at the Fiji Times. Okay, but in his house, Jack is the boss. Kita do log in the airport, then we come. Jack will take us to their house just to have a cup of wanimoli. And then the children will run to the grandpa. In his house, Jack is gone. Jack this, Jack that. And if you only have to, the more we enter Indian houses and the more our Indian brothers enter the Fijian houses, they will appreciate in the same way. And after a few times, Jack took me to their house. And every time we go to the airport with Jack, and he's always happy to take me to their house. And I realized, there are a lot of things that we are missing because we have not taken the time to try and understand each other. And the only way to understand each other is to be invited in the homes and be made part of the home, one way and vice versa.
Thank you, Mr. Nata, for that. I fully agree that that could and will start the reconciliation process, the Forward Fiji process, the main races in Fiji coming together and getting in the institution that is not helping. We need to really relook at it and support the Forward Fiji project or momentum or movement that we have. So that is the end of our episode for today. And we are grateful for Mr. Nata hearing all that things that has transpired over the last few years. 26 years now, 24 in prison, and then 2 years out of prison. You can still see that whilst there, you have had transformational thoughts and transformational ideas that we need to utilize those. And it's grateful that Yandra is an organization that is made up of ex-prisoners, might say, but they are very influential, knowledgeable leaders of Fiji that is there. And we would like to really appreciate what you're doing to the street kids of Nadi and Rotoka, and later moving to Suba. So for you out there, please do reach out to Tandra and also to Forward Fiji, and below in the link and at the end we will have their links and their numbers and Mr. Nata's one. Until we move into the next one, we do appreciate Tawata's coming in to share his insights and his lots of good thinking that can move our country forward, our reconciliation forward. But more so, out there, you as a man, you need to become a man. You as a woman, you need to be a better helpmate. Everything starts from the nucleus, and that is the family. We can always change the perspective mindset of our children that they will become a better citizen of this country. So until then, thank you very much for joining in. Shalom.